Oh, excuse me. Good morning, or I don't know, perhaps it's evening. I can't really tell. Don't know if this is my... Yes, this is my day robe. I've switched into my day robe from my night robe. Welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. Here we are again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainders section of an unnamed local library which may or may not have some lions couchant resting on the steps, possibly lapping up some warm milk in the hopes of getting some much-needed shut-eye. And I am Tootight Lautrec, weary with toil as I haste me to Sonnets 27 and 28. And in 27 and 28, here we are, tired in body, with our tortured souls and our weary wanderer of a narrator. And unlike Sonnet 26, where we weren't really sure if there was an actual separation, in Sonnets 27 and 28, it does seem like this is an actual poem of separation, a love poem of separation. And again, in 26, we didn't exactly know if it was a fictive separation or if it was a biographical situation on Shakespeare's part. Could have been a business trip, could have been a Shakespeare out with his merry men and his traveling theater troupe, or it could have been the plague. I don't know when you're going to see this, but we are in the midst of a pandemic, and so there's not really much choice of getting up and getting dressed, so I just decided to come to you al fresco, so to speak. But 27 and 28, the theme of a lover separated from the love object is once again a common theme among the sonneteers, and many people again blame, or in this case credit, Petrarch, who has written poems about spending many a sleepless night thinking about his dear Laura. Or so I gather. I will confess my complete and total ignorance right here and right now. I have never read Petrarch. So I'm going by what the experts say, and I trust them, but maybe one day, once the world reopens, I'll trot myself down to the nearest bookstore, if there's one remaining, and pick up a copy of the Petrarchan sonnets to see how they compare with the Shakespearean sonnets, or if I could look for similar themes throughout. William Kittredge says that, once again, this common theme of lovers separated from their love object, where lovers are the pilgrims and their lady loves are the saints, and that's a common theme that we see all throughout poetry, chivalric poetry, etc., etc., etc. Which is not exactly apt for Shakespeare, because we know Shakespeare likes convention, but he also likes to set convention on its ear. And in any case, this is a much different using of convention than he did in Sonnet 24, which made a complete mishmash of the whole thing, which set us spinning and turning, and we're glad to leave that behind us, and we're glad that we're back on the road with some really good sonnets. And yes, 27 and 28 are rather twisty-turny in thought and imagery and logic, but instead of wearing down my last nerve, it's more of a pleasant ride, especially once he gets going in Sonnet 28, which is, there's this playful back and forth between night and day, which is almost thrilling if he weren't talking about not getting enough sleep. So let's just hop right in, and I'm going to read 27 and 28 together because they are a pair. So we'll read them both together, and then I'll talk about them a little bit afterwards. 27, and you can count on your own if it's 14 lines or not, or when I turn the page you'll know that it's 28. 27 and 28. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed, The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head, to work my mind when body's work's expired. For then my thoughts, from far where I abide, intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous, and her old face new. Lo, thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find. How can I then return in happy plight, that am debarred the benefit of rest, when day's oppression is not eased by night, but day by night, and night by day oppressed, and each, though enemies to each other's reign, do in consent shake hands to torture me, the one by toil, the other to complain how far I toil, still farther off from thee. I tell the day to please him, thou art bright, and dost him grace when clouds do blot the heaven. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night, when sparkling stars twire not, thou gild'st the even. But day doth daily draw my sorrows longer, and night doth nightly make grief's length seem stronger. Well, so here we have two lovely, lovely sonnets, one lovelier than the other. I feel 28 is much nicer than 27, which is saying, I'm away from you and I cannot sleep because I'm thinking of you. I think about you during the day and I'm tortured, and I work myself to death, and then I go to bed thinking I'm going to get a sound sleep, but then I'm wide awake thinking of you, and I'm tortured still by the grievous, glorious love that I feel for you. They're quite nice poems, and if you look at, well, we'll go through it, but if you'll just pay attention to 27 is a bit of a sleepy poem, and 28 gets it spinning a little bit more, and it's really quite light and airy. If you look at 27, there are those W's, those long O's, the U's, the heavy vowels that I feel weigh it down and make it a bit more sleepy. And then in 28, you get the lighter vowels like the A's and the E's and the I's that kind of lift it up until it slows down again in the final couplet. So we'll just go through. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed. Well, I'm tired and I'm going to bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. And in this second line, travel in the quatrain is travail. And I actually quite like travail because that's the French word for work. And it makes more sense as we go. But it's possible that also it could be travel. He's far from his love because of the plague. He's seeking refuge from the plague, or he's out touring with his theater group, or it's a completely fictional travel. He's on a business trip, or he's in exile, or she possibly, because we don't really know. Hoping to go to bed. But then once the narrator is in bed, but then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's work's expired. Even though I've worked all day, I start squirrel caging, thinking about you. For then my thoughts from far where I abide, far from where I am right now, indeed intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee. Intend meaning to set upon or to direct a pilgrimage to you. I'm here in bed alone, but I'm actually going to you in my mind. And keep my drooping eyelids wide, open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see. It's so dark I could be a blind man, but instead I'm thinking of you, and my eyes are open wide even though they should be shut with shut eye. Save that thy soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view, I'm seeing you, which like a jewel hung in ghastly night makes black night beauteous and her old face new. In ancient mythology, night is, the goddess of night is personified as an old witchy woman. And unlike the actual night, your vision comes to me that looks like an actual jewel hanging in the night that makes it glows on its own in place of the old hag night's face. Lo, thus by day my limbs, by night my mind, for thee and for myself no quiet find. So I can't find any rest because I'm thinking of you. And those W's and those O's, weary with toil, the dear repose, work my mind when body's work's expired. Those W's and those long O's kind of keep it sleepy, and drooping eyelids open wide keep it kind of sleepy all the way through. And then we get to 28. How can I then return in happy plight? It's almost like the narrator is approaching a certain kind of frenzy, a joyous frenzy, but a frenzy all the same, a sleepy, exhausted frenzy, but those can sometimes be good too. How can I then return in happy plight that am debarred the benefit of rest? I can't get to sleep, so how am I going to do this? When day's oppression, and this day and night, the juxtaposition of day and night and what they do is really quite nice. When day's oppression is not eased by night, well, we know the day's oppression is the work that he must do, or the thinking about his lost love. Or maybe there's a fire engine coming to capture his lost love, or an ambulance, that's true. So we'll have a moment of silence. Okay, well, we've had our moment of silence for the ambulances that race around New York City all day lately. 28 begins with this frenzy. How can I then return in happy plight that am debarred the benefit of rest, when day's oppression is not eased by night, but day by night and night by day oppressed? And even just that hopping and skipping, the by connecting it, day by night, night by day, it's kind of like this skipping, spinning turn of a phrase, and also in our ear. And each day and night, though enemies to either's reign. So day and night are enemies to one another normally, because the light comes and it's life and light, and night comes and it's darkness and death possibly. Each, though enemies to either's reign, do in consent shake hands to torture me. So day and night shake hands and join forces to torture me, because I can't get any rest or any solace in the daytime or in the nighttime. And that little, just that chiasmic joining of the day and the night to come in consort against the narrator is really quite a lovely image. The one by toil, day, the other to complain how far I toil, still farther off from thee. No matter how much I work, I still have to go home at night and think about how far away you are from me. I tell the day to please him, thou art bright. You're the bright spot in my day, and dost him grace when clouds do blot the heaven. So even on a cloudy day, even when it's rainy and dark, you appear in my life or in my imagination and light the day for me. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night. Swart, swarthy, dark, the dark-complexioned night. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night. This is a beautiful, this next line is beautiful. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night, when sparkling stars twire not, thou gild'st the even. So twire could mean to twirl, it could mean to peer out, it could mean to twinkle, or it could mean to twirl, twinkling as it turns. It's a beautiful, beautiful image. And when the sparkling stars do not do that, you gilts the even. So make the evening golden for me, even though it's dark and almost black. You're the gold spot, you're the bright spot in my even, even if the sparkling stars twire not. I'm just going to read that again because I love it. So flatter I the swart-complexioned night when sparkling stars twire not, thou gilt'st the even. So it's this day by night, night by day, sparkling stars. It's very light, very airy, very spinning, twirling, but not in a way that makes us crazy, in a way that makes us think about the revolutions of the sun and the moon and the stars and the cycles of life. And then we get to the couplet, which slows it down a little bit. But day doth daily, with all these D's all in a row, 4 D's in a row. But day doth daily draw my sorrows longer. And here's that long O and the W again. But day doth daily draw my sorrows longer, and night doth nightly make grief's length seem stronger. Beautiful. I can't get no rest thinking about you, dear one. This last line, some people, there have been some commentators who have, or editors who have changed the word length to strength so that it would be make grief's strength seem stronger. But in the quarto it is length. And also in the quarto, this last line, this last word stronger is pushed up on top because there wasn't room in the printing to be able to do it. So it kind of over runs the line, and so I feel that length is more appropriate, just as most of the commentators do too. So here we get this spinning, dizzy-making poem in a sense, but it's an exhilarating spinning. It's not like the crazy-making spinning of Sonnet 24, where you just go round and round and round, and you end up, just about ready to puke because you can't stand anymore. This is more like when you see a dancer doing a pirouette around and around and around and around and around, and then slowly the music slows, and with complete control, the dancer slows into a slow pirouette, into a slow pirouette, into a slow, until the final pose. Gorgeous, just like this poem. So this is not a 14, this is a 20, a 28-line poem, I feel, and it's just a poem about the gorgeous suffering of love. Now, is there a male or a female indicated as the love object? There's not really any indication of either. The day, the narrator compares the love object to the day and the night. The day is masculine and the night is feminine, so there's no gender specified, and any number of, any combination of genders would work for this poem. And once again, I said, it could be the theater troupe on tour, it could be plague or quarantine, it could be a fictional separation like exile, or a business trip, or the Crusades, or some religious pilgrimage, something like that, some chivalrous journey. It doesn't really matter. It's a gorgeous poem, and 2 sonnets together, the second is stronger than the first, and actually having read it, I'm feeling much better now. I think I might even get up and splash my face with a little bit of water and maybe even put on a little bit of lipstick, who knows. If you're alone, and I'm hoping you're well, and I'm hoping you're financially well, and I'm hoping that you're physically well, and I'm hoping that your mental health is well, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those you love, and whatever small space that you are confined to, or even, I'm hoping it's a larger space, but look around and find the wonder where you are, because there are many. Pay attention to them. Until we meet again, I'm Tootight Lautrec.